And I know everyone's time is valuable. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this webinar today. My name is Noah Pittman. I'm the Associate Dean of Enrollment for the Honors College at the University of Arkansas. We're really happy to see you all here today to learn more about the Extending the Dream Professional Grant through SACEC. We have a couple of our committee members here today, along with myself. Marcia, do you want to introduce yourself too?
Sure. My name is Marcelyn Lindsay, and I am a school counselor at St. Pius X High School in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, and so we're actually here on behalf of the chair of the committee, Cynthia Simpson Obioha, who had a personal matter, wasn't able to make it to the presentation today, but she'll be very involved throughout this entire process. But we're here today to give you an overview for applicants for the Extending the Dream Professional Grant. This is a grant that we plan to award about $15,000 this year through a process that includes an application along with a virtual interview. But along with myself and Marcel, I mentioned Cynthia is our chair. She's from Capstone College Consulting in South Carolina. Another one of our members is Katrina Cole Gardner, who's from Gwinnett County School of Math, Science, and Technology over in Georgia as well. So we are the four committee members. Myself, Cynthia, Katrina have been on the committee since 2019, and Marcel, if I'm correct, joined last year as well. So we all have experience in going through this process and really working with some great staff, faculty who are working with students all throughout the region. And as you know, the Extending the Dream Grant Committee is especially focused on college access, working with underserved students in a variety of different ways, and also making sure that students throughout the region are aware of the college search process too. Those are really the overarching goals of our grant. This webinar is recorded. So we will have a recording available. I don't know exactly when, but there will be a recording available if you need something to reference. And then this is also a webinar, which means all of you are muted. So if you have any questions, just type them into the chat. We'll try to answer throughout. And at the very end, we'll answer your questions as well. So I'll turn it over to Marcelyn to start talking about Extending the Dream Grants.
Okay, thank you, Noah. So the Extending the Dream Grant is a fund that enables members of SACEC to establish and pay for special projects within the community. These are reimbursement grants. So once you have everything approved, you'll do it from April to December. And then you have 30 days to submit, not April to December, but throughout the semester. We'll look at the details in a second, but the goal is to take, like Noah said, those 15,000 and break them down. They usually grant between $500 and $3,700, with the goal being it's an annual grant that serves college-bound students. So many recipients of the grant have served as advocates for creating pathways to college by pushing the limits on college access and increasing awareness about the college search process. Okay. Ultimate goal, again, is to make the dream of attending college a reality for these same students. So let's take a look at the timeline. So when we're looking at it, everything starts March 11th. So this is an introduction just to give you the ideas of what will be happening. The deadline is going to be at midnight at 11:59. For us to receive your grants. We'll take some time to review them. We will award them April 11th and 12th, and everyone gets notified, whether you are a recipient or you are unable to receive the grant. Everyone receives notification. And then you do use the grant from April to December. And again, this is a reimbursement grant. So we do need you to submit that documentation to us to be able to get the reimbursement funds. Okay, the components of the application. There are 3 components, and so we'll look at those in detail. You can go ahead to the next one. The first one is contact and organization info. So we need to know the parts, we need to know who is there, and then we need the project details and the project budget. So when we are looking at this, really the more information that we have, the better. And that's going to be the case for all of the different application components. So we need the grant lead and organization employer, mailing address. Please don't leave off any of these details. SACEC membership status. So public school employees and counselors can now get a free membership to SACAC. So if that's something that you haven't had a chance to look at, we definitely recommend it.
All right, so the second part in the application that's really important is the project details. Now, for the project name, don't sweat that too much. Some people get real creative. Some people it's just very simply college tour. The project name is not as big of a concern, but one of the things that is really important is providing a detailed description of the project. So one of the things we wanted to do was share with you an example of a detailed description we've received from one of our past grant recipients. So you see the example here. Most of these details are going to be about a paragraph long when given your project description. This is so about 3 to 4 sentences. This one from Caminos gives a really good example of how to really break down this description. The first sentence you'll look at is describing what exactly Caminos is. 4-day camp, Latinx Rising high school juniors and seniors, and what do they do as part of that camp. The second part, now this was a request to do campus tours. They talk about going onto a college campus, but it's not just about going to the college campus. They give really good description on what they're going to accomplish while they're at these campuses and in the surrounding areas. Explore career opportunities, discuss admissions process. They want to learn about institutional types, explore the city as well. It'd be one thing to say, we're going to visit a college campus, but tell us exactly who do you want them hearing from? What are they going to learn? And then finally, you see the overarching goal. So what do you want the students to get from the grant? What are they going to do? And here they talk about understanding their path and vision to achieve higher education, build community ties to campus, networking. This is a really good example of a project description. So again, that 3 to 4 sentence, what are you doing? What are you going to do during the visit or the program or whatever you're offering? What's the overarching goal too? So this is a really good description right here. Now, another part of the part 2, the project details, is approximately how many students serving and why the population you plan to serve are most deserving. So I know it's hard, especially if you're going to be asking for money for November, December, to give an exact figure, but try to give us as best of an estimate as possible of how many students are going to be involved in this program, in this tour, in this travel, you name it, whether it's 15 students or 150 students, just try to be as close as possible. But what's even more important is you're also going to give us details about why the population you plan to serve are most deserving. Here, the more data you can give us, the better. So another really good example you see, for example, why population you're serving are most deserving. This gives us a really good description of the population. It first talks about all the students are first or second generation immigrants. This is, I think, from the Caminos program as well. Many are going to be the first graduate from high school. Approximately 20% of students are undocumented, limited financial resources. Majority are Pell eligible. Majority of students are from 2 rural counties. That's a really good description describing, it's a really good description of the students, but the more data you can give us, the better. That is really going to help us because, you know, I'm from Arkansas, Marcella and Katrina, they're from Georgia. Cynthia's from South Carolina. We don't know every school district, every state for that matter. So the more you can give us, the better. This also gives good description about the bilingual case studies they do with their parents, since a lot of the parents are not native English speakers. This is a really good example right here. So the more data, the better. That's really going to help with us understanding your population more. Just assume that we know nothing about your school, your district, whatever population you're working with. Now, another thing in part 2 on the project details, expected project date. Again, it's hard to give an exact date this far out for some people, but try to give us as expected as close as possible. List of partners and collaborators. We're interested in knowing, are you getting funding from other sources? This is just for us to understand, you know, are you seeking out other sources? We're not really penalize you for that. Honestly, we're usually more impressed when you look for partners and collaborators. So we'll ask for that, and also details on how the project will be assessed. Now, in terms of assessment, the most common thing we see is usually a pre-test and a post-test. So pre-test about college admissions knowledge and overall college knowledge before the event, and then a post-test to see where improvements were made. Some people do that. Some people use surveys. We do require some type of assessment tool. It doesn't have to be the most advanced tool in the world. You don't have to be creating something that's going to be a peer-reviewed paper. We want to just know, how are you going to assess what was good, what worked, what didn't work? Because a lot of organizations do come back and will apply. You can apply for grants, every year pretty much. So we want to know, are you assessing? Are you making improvements? That's something that'll come up, especially in interviews after we've reviewed the application. So again, you do need to have some type of assessment. This is a good example here, but surveys, other tools can be just as effective as well. All right. Now, going into part 3, this is where Cynthia was going to be presenting here. Cynthia is our chair. She really focuses on the budget. The project budget, we do require this as part of the application. So you will be uploading a project budget. Now, remember, most cases we're funding anywhere from $500 to about $3,700. It's usually in that range. A lot of these awards are going to be maybe in the $1,000 to $2,000 range. We try to spread out the money as much as possible. But giving you an example of a project budget, way to set this up on Excel, you see that what this person did was they listed the items they're going to be using as part of their program, and then also projected costs, amount of secured funds for the item, and amount of EDD funding request for item. So for this, let's say this person is requesting $1,500. They ask $300. They need $300 for materials and supplies, $500 for transportation, $500 for facility, the rest equipment purchase, photocopy is $300. So they'll break down, how much each of those areas they need costs. If they've secured any funds for the item, please let us know there. So let's say you need $300 for materials and supplies, and you already got $100 from your district. In the third column, you'll say you're requesting $200 from us there. And again, if you are someone who's already finding other grants, that's great. We want to know about that. But the actual amount that you're requesting from us needs to be in that third column. And be as accurate as possible here. In a lot of cases, when it gets down to making decisions on grants, we'll ask people who are in their interviews, what is the most important thing for your program? So it may be that the transportation is the most important, like at $500, we got to make that work. Because it might be you will request $1,500, but we really only have like $700 to give. So we'll say, okay, we'll give $500 specifically for transportation, and it has to be used for transportation. And we have another $200, we'll give you that to finish out your photocopying. So be prepared. If you do get an interview, we will almost always ask at the end, out of all these line items, what's the most important to you? Where do you need the money the most? Because unfortunately, we can't always fund the entire budget, but in a lot of cases, we might be able to fund a percentage of it. Make sure to share this budget. This is a really good example right here. And then we already mentioned this a little bit, asking about funding from additional sources, providing details. So I'll just give you a quick example of what that might look like. I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Bus rental, you see a breakdown here from another recipient. Bus rental, snacks and lunches, surveys, what they've already secured for each item from another organization or their school district or so on. And then you see the total request in the third column. And it might be, again, we love the project. We just can't do 3,450 because we want to fund all these other projects. Maybe we can do 2,650 and expressly tell you that's for bus rental. That's why we'll ask that question in the interviews. Where do you need the money the most? Where is it just for whatever, for budget purposes or for, you've already secured other money. Where do you need the money the most? Be prepared to answer that. And then putting it all together, we're very proud of the fact that we fund, since I've been on the committee, we've funded dozens of groups over the years at this point. A really good example Cynthia wanted me to share from last year. This was from the Lanier High School in our region. First Gen Club college visit. You can see they did a college visit to Georgia State. We were able to give them $1,200 to help make that possible. So really great group of students. We're always happy to hear back because what you'll find is if you are offered the grant, since it's a reimbursement grant, there will be a process. You'll probably be in touch with Cynthia regarding the reimbursement process, the paperwork that's necessary, the receipts, things like that. So we're always happy to hear of really great students throughout the SAC region getting to visit college campuses, learn more about college admissions, and just be more aware of the opportunities that are available for them through higher education. All right. Now, questions. What questions do you have? What do you want to know more about? Again, this will be recorded. We're not quite sure how this is going to be shared. I imagine it's going to be on the Extending the Dream section of the SACAC website. We do have a section in the grants section of the SACAC website. Click on grants, you see Extending the Dream, and you see the timeline that was shared. The application link is included there. All that information is going to be on the ETD section of SACAC grants. But any questions at all, please feel free to type them in the chat. Did we could just get one?
Yes, it says, if we received the grant last year, can we apply again? Great question. Yes.
Yes, you can. Yeah. So, and we'll probably ask questions again about if you've received grants before, how did the assessment look? How effective was it? Things like that. But yes, you can apply again. Any other questions?
Okay,
So
I
we got
see
another
one
one?
more. Are there any limitations on the number of times we can apply over the years?
I'm not aware of any.
I don't think so.
We track all the grants that are given. So I know as a reviewer, we always know this program or this individual has been funded X amount of years. But I'm not aware of any. Are you, Marcy?
No, it seems we look more for what the project entails and if there's been a grant recipient in the past. The next one says, does the organization need to be a nonprofit?
Trying to remember the rules on here. Most of them are nonprofits. I'm not familiar. We may have to get back with you on that.
So
I
it
can't
says
remember off the top of
an
my head.
anonymous attendee, but if you can send a message to us in the chat with your information, then we can get back with you. So we'll know who you are.
Yeah. And I'll also be another question too.
Will this presentation be available to us following this session? Yes, it will be available. We're not exactly sure when, but it will be soon.
I'd imagine it'll be on the SACAC Extending the Dreams section of the website.
Next question says, am I correct in understanding that spring projects and events for 2025 would not be possible for this funding?
I know usually in the past, the grants are through December. That may be something here's what I would do. I would reach out to Cynthia. Let me share her email address for her grants email address. So if you have a question like that, ETD grants, so ETDGRANTS at sacac.org. So again, I apologize. Cynthia is our chair. From what I can remember, usually they're through December, but I know people reach out to Cynthia about when there's issues or sometimes weather prevents things from happening. But yes, that my understanding in the past it's been through December, but check with Cynthia to confirm. Any other questions?
No, and our apologies. I did not realize the chat was disabled. So you all are very resourceful and moved to the Q&A section. So we do appreciate that.
I'm not seeing any other questions, are you?
No, you're not.
All right, well, again, once again, I will share Cynthia ETD grants at sacac.org. If you have a question that pops up after today, Cynthia is your best resource. She'll be happy to take care of it. And just a quick reminder, applications are due on March 11th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, I'm Central, so I always have to remember that. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to reading your applications. We'll be in touch regarding interviews after the applications are made.
Okay, and we do have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It says, I'm from a small independent school in Tennessee. Are the grants mostly awarded to public school projects?
I would say they are, but usually it's because the majority of the applications are. When you say, I don't think it neither helps nor hurts you. But again, we have funded, I know some independent schools, some independent religious schools as well. Make sure, again, really tell us, and just because you're at an independent school doesn't mean you don't have students who need access to learning more about higher education. Put that in the description. Most of the grant applications do come from public schools, but independent schools are definitely not excluded. All right.
What is the time frame to use the grant funds?
We'll go
So
back.
that's going to be right. Yeah, we'll take you back to that one. It's going to be April to December.
And submitting the reimbursement paperwork within 30 days of event, that is really important. That's an important SACAC rule. So just be ready to plan for that. Well, if there's no other questions, again, thank you so much for coming today. Questions after today. Like I said, ETD grants at sacac.org. Cynthia is a fantastic resource. She'll be happy to answer your questions. But thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a great rest of the week. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Marceline.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, I'll go ahead and end this. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.